Welcome to No, I'm Not Human, a horror game where the world is ending due to the sun exploding. People from cities are fleeing to neighboring areas as conditions worsen. There are rumors of humans being killed by other humans, with reports of creatures that look like people. Someone will soon provide information on how to distinguish these creatures from real humans. Morning brings a weather forecast announcing persistent heat and sunshine that has broken records. Scientists are monitoring increased solar activity, but assure there's no cause for concern. The broadcast notes strange behavior in town, attributing it to excessive sun exposure. A neighbor visits and warns about the dire situation. Every conversation costs energy, which is important when checking people for signs of being visitors. When energy runs low, drinking beer from the kitchen fridge will cause immediate sleep. The neighbor advises not to admit to being alone if someone asks at night. As night falls, the gameplay shifts from daytime conversations to nighttime survival. Various visitors begin arriving, including teenagers outside the window and a child looking for their father. The social dynamics have inverted, with people now staying indoors during day and venturing out at night due to the heat. A person arrives claiming they were kicked out of their previous shelter due to their temperament. They insist they're not a visitor and ask to be let in, mentioning that trust is rare in these times. The player must decide whether abrasive behavior indicates a real human or a clever disguise. Another visitor appears, explaining they're seeking shelter from the sun. They claim visitors took over their house and forced them out. When questioned about the future, they express fear and uncertainty before being turned away by the suspicious player. An emergency broadcast interrupts regular programming to announce a massive solar eruption that has caused critical air temperatures. A state of emergency has been declared, with citizens advised to avoid daylight. The broadcast reveals that visitors can be identified by their unnaturally perfect white teeth. A peaceful moment, interrupted by unusual encounters, begins with someone suggesting having a beer. The tranquil scene quickly shifts as bodies of teenagers are discovered on the ground, apparently murdered recently, as the blood hasn't dried yet. A pale man with strange skin folds approaches, creating an atmosphere of dread. His skin appears too large for his body, and his penetrating gaze instills fear. This mysterious figure seeks refuge but doesn't reveal much about his identity, causing suspicion that he might be a visitor concealing his teeth. The strange man delivers cryptic messages about the sun cleansing humanity of sins. He explains that the sun burns people to purge their wrongdoings, preparing everyone for a new clean world. Despite his unsettling appearance and bizarre theories, he seems genuinely convinced of this cosmic purification process. Speculation continues about whether the jacketed person was a visitor, as they never showed their teeth. Morning news reports heightened abnormal activity and increasing visitor encounters. FEMA has ramped up operations, with staff in yellow hazmat suits responding to the crisis. FEMA has identified new visitor indicators, dirt under fingernails, alongside the previously known sign of unusual teeth. A former nurse was detained for testing after dirt was discovered under her nails, confirming her dangerous status. Citizens are urged to report suspicious individuals to FEMA's hotline and remain indoors during daylight. A tense interaction occurs as someone's hands and nails are inspected for visitor signs. The examined person has trimmed nails and passes the inspection. Discussions turn to a cataclysmic event, with cryptic references to sacrifices, righteous flames, and a sun-faced one. The catastrophe's scale is discussed, with casualties potentially numbering in the thousands or millions. There's skepticism about FEMA's visitor identification methods, particularly the dirt under fingernails criterion. A theory emerges that visitors might be descendants of aliens planted in soil years ago, now emerging to reclaim Earth. FEMA staff gather outside a neighbor's house, collecting samples and potentially establishing a base. The presence of authorities provides some comfort amid the chaos. Emergency workers handle burning teenage bodies, preventing potential contagion. Armed soldiers search for a pale, bare-chested man previously spotted. A threatening encounter unfolds with someone who appears to be assessing the residence for potential victims. The intruder mentions hearing whispers in the rooms and implies violent intentions. When asked about future plans, a woman reveals her husband has died and she cannot properly bury him. The quiet night is broken by the appearance of blood and a stranger requesting entry. This individual notes the unusual silence of the house compared to others filled with screams of pain, sorrow, or drunkenness. They reveal a nearby hospital was overwhelmed with patients and infiltrated by visitors, leading to its shutdown and current state of chaos. Morning News announces FEMA has established quarantine zones for individuals showing visitor signs. Despite public concern about visitor identification criteria, FEMA maintains they are merely ill people needing assistance. A new visitor indicator has been identified: intensely irritated blood-red eyes, though some question whether this might simply indicate intoxication rather than visitor status. Emergency broadcasts warn citizens to avoid daylight exposure due to potential dangers from bright sunlight. Authorities urge everyone to remain calm and stay indoors. Teams are investigating the situation, moving through different homes to check on residents. Officials are conducting eye examinations as many people are experiencing eye injuries. There's speculation about whether these injuries are sun-related or symptoms of some disease. The investigators appear to be filtering out certain individuals, possibly identifying threats. In this new world, emotional expression is increasingly restricted. Laughing is forbidden, crying aloud is discouraged, and sometimes speaking is prohibited. People cover their faces with their hands and maintain quiet solitude as coping mechanisms. A neighboring house, recently painted white, has burned to the ground. The fire appears to have been deliberate, raising questions about the fate of the family and whether there were any survivors. This leaves witnesses feeling anxious and helpless. A disturbing pale figure stands on the road, smiling while holding a soldier's severed head. The entire squad of soldiers who were protecting the area has been killed, with bodies scattered across the street. This horrific scene creates intense fear among witnesses. FEMA crews arrive claiming to help residents. They wear protective suits and request to take one person for examination, supposedly to check for exposure to something called celebration. They promise to return the person and provide further instructions afterward. Society appears to be breaking down as violence escalates. A new order emerges based on the principle that whoever is strongest is right. Some individuals remain in their homes, barely leaving, while trying to maintain some semblance of order amid the chaos. A child arrives reporting that visitors killed their father. These visitors apparently infiltrate homes, sometimes killing residents and setting fires. People struggle to distinguish between real humans and these entities, creating paranoia and distrust. Morning news broadcasts reveal that FEMA has discovered visitors cannot be properly photographed. They appear blurred in pictures taken with film cameras. Citizens are encouraged to use this information to identify potential visitors while continuing to stay indoors. Residents begin testing each other using photography to identify visitors. The tests create tension and fear, with some refusing to be photographed. Strange noises heighten anxiety as people become increasingly paranoid about who might be a visitor in disguise. Looking at the devastation of a neighbor's house brings the realization that much of the destruction isn't caused by the visitors themselves, but by human paranoia. Violence spreads as people hang bodies with warning signs declaring visitors are not welcome. A group of survivors are dealing with FEMA teams conducting surveys of neighborhoods. There's confusion about why additional surveys are needed, with officials explaining previous samples were too small or mixed. The surveys appear related to identifying certain individuals within the community. Residents express skepticism about visitors, particularly someone wearing a suit. A homeowner attempts to avoid interaction by claiming to be busy, requesting they return later. When questioned about occupancy, they make cryptic references to the last days and bizarre claims about dogs ruling the world, suggesting psychological strain or deliberate misdirection. The community faces existential threats with references to melting glaciers and birds falling from the sky. There's a sense of hopelessness as people debate whether conditions will worsen. Some have given up planning for the future, while others are concerned about dwindling numbers of safe people. A survival theory emerges suggesting that the mechanism of the threat involves isolating individuals by gradually removing people from their social circles until they're vulnerable. This may be part of a game-like scenario where isolation leads to being captured by an unspecified antagonist. Some survivors have resorted to fortifying their homes, boarding windows, and barricading doors. There's a desperate hope that the nightmare will eventually end, with some finding comfort in knowing only humans remain under their roof. This suggests non-human entities are a significant threat. The scenario appears to have multiple possible approaches, allowing everyone in versus allowing no one in. When testing the strict isolation approach, survivors quickly discover that having no companions results in immediate failure, suggesting human connection is necessary for survival despite the risks. There's mention of a house being abandoned after a terrible disappearance, creating a reputation that others avoid. This might be related to the consequences of incorrect decisions in identifying threats. The community has developed verification methods to distinguish genuine humans from potential imposters. It's confirmed that maintaining zero human connections results in automatic failure. The FEMA inspectors may function as a mechanism to ensure players can't isolate with just a few trusted individuals.